Well, today's episode, we're going to have not only we're going to be reviewing Impact Wrestling, as you know, Josh Alexander relinquished the Impact World title due to a torn bicep, but the set is stage for rebellion. As you know, Kushida will be stepping in to take on Steve Macklin, so we'll see how this one goes. But we also got Ring of Honor with only two championship matches taking place: the Pure Wrestling Championship and the Women's World Championship. But first things first, we're going to be reviewing MLW recent event, the from Underground Wrestling. It only features a couple of matches, and pretty much we'll be seeing what takes place. So, and also a couple of news updates. One of them of you may have heard Deja Vu once again with um, Sendai Girls, another invasion. And then, of course, more info on the situation taking place with the Guerrero family. This one is a very interesting one that you definitely going to enjoy, and plenty other things such as what matches are being booked, what events are coming up, and the whole enchilada. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. So, let's begin with MLW Underground Wrestling. Now, it started up with Rio One, formerly known as Enzo Amore, doing a little promo. As you know, he suffered a big humiliation about a week or two ago when he lost to Microman. So basically, he goes out on a rant about Microman and all this, and of course, him uh, putting himself a certified G and all this. However, Microman's new buddy, Mance Warner, shows up with a chainsaw to see if he wants to chop him a bit, but he did not come alone. So does his teammate from Second Gear Crew, Matthew Justice, even showed up. But however, when Real One thought he had weapons of mass destruction right there to help him, Microman was right there waiting for him, and he ran like a coward. I have to say, Microman made a lot of good friends. Despite of his popularity, I mean, everybody seems like they love Microman, and not to mention, he fits in drinking beer with the Second Gear Crew. Now, our next our opening match we have is a hardcore match. We have, of course, a member of the Second Gear Crew, one called Manders, taking on a member of the Calling, RSP, or as we know him, Ricky Shane Page. Now, as you know, the Calling has been making a lot of noise since their arrival. Not to mention, there's still that one matter we're still questioning: do they have anything to do with Caesar Durant? That is something we don't know yet. But this match was so brutal, so hardcore. This you can see Manders bleeding out. Now you probably thought in this righteous mind because those who remember Ricky Shane Page, he's not a fan of hardcore wrestling. But however, he has to step up because of course Raven is asking for it. You probably thought in your heads that this one would have been in Manders's wheelhouse to pick up his win. No, apparently, what happened is the final moments. Manders was trying to use a chair on Ricky, but he countered it, whacked him in the head with it, and then of course, somehow Manders ended up being on the underneath the table, and then of course Ricky Shane did the most unthinkable, a swanton bomb or a senton right on top of Manders. One, two, three. It was over, just like that. Now, our next match, we have, of course, the full blooded Italians FBI consistent of Ray Jazz and Little Guido. They take on, of course, Dragon Gate's very own Natural Vibes, Kzy and Big Boss Shimizu. I have to say it was a pretty good match because I'm a big fan of how Dragon Gate is with Big Boss and KZ. There, no doubt in my mind, they're an awesome team. But it was, of course, a pin. First, it was a choke slam by Shimizu onto Guido, and then of course KZ did a somewhat a frog splatter or something onto him. 1, 2, 3, it was over. Natural Vibes won this match. Now, as you know, we got Battle Ride coming up. Now the wrestlers are picking their spots. However, the first ones to pick up their balls were the ball of numbers. It's of course the Bumaye morons themselves, Alex Kane and Mr. Thomas. Now, Alex Kane seems disappointed that he got a number. Now, we don't know what the number is, but it seems Mr. Thomas may have got lucky. We just don't know what it is. So it's kind of interesting. Now, our main event features is the MLW World Middleweight title. We have Delirious taking on um, Lince Dorado. But however, before the start of the match, we have the former champion, Leo Rush, making his way to the ring. He has his sights set once again onto the title. Now, he has defeated Myron Reed for this title once before, but we'll see how this one will roll out. But I have to say, Lince Dorado really proved he's a fighting champion, but he applied a shooting star press to finish off Delirious. But here comes Leo Rush to give him back his title, but it didn't happen that way. He took him out, and then he walked away with the title. So that's pretty much what happened. However, when the match was over, we go backstage. Davey Boy Smith saw that Bumaye were up to no good. This time they attacked his cousin Mark Billington, knocking off his teeth. And I'm sure that Davey Boy Smith is not going to forget this, that the Bumaye Fight Club declared war against him. The Bumaye Fight Club, if you guys remember, they think that guys like them, then the British wrestlers didn't mount for anything. Come on. We know who Davey Boy Smith Jr. is. He is the son of the late British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, and he is the and he's the grandson of Stu Hart. So we'll see how this war between the Bumaye Fight Club and the British will go. I think that's pretty much it right now. I believe it's time for Impact Wrestling. Alrighty then. So let's talk about Impact Wrestling. It opened up with the Motor City Machine Guns taking on TMTK's Bad Dude Tito and Shane Hayes. Now, both of these teams were involved at Multiverse United. As always, it was, of course, the Bullet Club that walked out. But this time, we're going to see TMDK and, of course, the Motor City and the Guns face it off. I thought it was a pretty good match. Not to mention, as we always talk about the Motor Machine Guns, they are crafty. They know exactly how to pick up the win. I think it tells us everything. But of course, I did like the teamwork with, of course, the Motor Machine Guns. It was the jackknife by Saban onto Tito that allowed them to win. But however, it appears that the Bullet Club are willing to put the tag titles on the line. But the Machine Guns that reminded them they do have a rematch, so they want to take this rematch at Rebellion. And they said, let's turn our match not just any regular match. Let's turn this into an Ultimate X match. So they said they were down, but the obvious thing is, Chris Bay's like, are you sure you want to do this? You know, it's like he's doubting, is this the right move? It's not about if it's the right move or not. It's about, how do I say it? Is this the right way to go? But we'll see. Now, Eddie Edwards, as you know, for months now, he's been trying to leave his past behind, especially when it came to PCO, who he tried to get rid of time and time again. So he asked Eddie, his pal, Kenny King, for help, but King's felt like, nope, I'm not helping you this time. It's nothing personal. It's the fact is, every time something goes wrong, doesn't go your way. We just don't know exactly how Eddie's gonna be, but that's basically he may be running out of friends fast. Now, Scott D'Amore was in the back as always, but Tommy Dreamer has been trying to get Scott D'Amore to join his team in his hardcore match against Bully in Rebellion, but we'll see what happens then. Now, Trey Miguel goes on commentary because there was a number one contenders for the X Division title. That is Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham. The match was great. I mean, I loved it because there's a lot of the technical aspects that applied into this match. But Trey Miguel wasn't going to have a number one contender, so basically he kind of interrupted, made it into a no contest. Then he tried to bring the spray can, but Gresham and Bailey were prepared. But however, for Trey Miguel, he felt that, I got away with it. I don't need no number one contender. But however, um, Gresham and Bailey were trying to make an appeal to Santino Marella, and Morella's like is trying to listen, but of course Trey Miguel, who's trying to weasel his way out, so he decided to turn the match into a three-way. So basically, the more he was trying to divert, he was adding more fuel to the fire. So that kind of sets it off. But I thought it was crazy. Now, there have been recent developments with the design. Excuse me. A lot of recent developments with the design along with Sammy. So they're now jumping to step 7. But however, there's still the talk about, is he reliable? Is he really on the same page as these guys? Well, we'll find out until step 7. Now, our next match is the debut of Jody Threat during Sacrifice. They mentioned her that she was going to be coming to Impact. Her opponent is what's her name? Tara Rising. You can guess this match didn't go in favor of Jody Threat when she applied the F416, and it was over. Don't know when she'll be making her first attempt for a title shot, but we'll just wait and see when we get there. Now, during this match, we did notice that someone attacked Santino. We don't know who could that be, so it's kind of interesting that it went in that farther. But yeah. Now, our interview, we featured Gia Miller with Tasha Steelz. Now, we haven't seen her for months. She decided to went home, try to figure out what she's going to do. However, she was interrupted by Giselle Shaw, who felt that, oh, you come here and all minding your own business. She's saying that you abandoned Savannah Evans, but she's saying, Steele says, nope, I ditched her ass. So basically, there's gonna be match between those two, but Giselle Shaw's not happy that Tasha Steele's back and try to rain on her parade. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our next match features the Good Hand and Bully Ray, as always, the scumbags of the earth. They take on Darren McCarty, the hockey player, Yuya Uemura, and Tommy Dreamer. I thought this match was pretty good because, as you know, Darren McCarty was viciously powerbombed by Bully Ray through a table at Sacrifice. But one thing that led to another. It went into a, how do I say, a stunner by Darren McCarty to pick up the win, and Bully Ray did not like it. But however, here comes Kenny King, who just showed up out of nowhere and attacks, and then Kazarian shows up, then of course Masha Slamovich, and then of course Killer Kelly. So now the lines have been drawn for the hardcore war between Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer. So I'm excited to see that. Our next match is Eddie Edwards versus PCO. I thought this match was pretty good because it showed like, okay, PCO was stopping nothing just to bury Eddie Edwards. But however, the match was took to a turn when, of course, his ride and die Leisha Edwards shows up, who we haven't seen for quite some time. Obvious questions remain: was she the one that ran him over? That's a good question. But because of the distraction, it did allow for Eddie to apply the Boston Knee Party, giving him the win. But as always, PCO is not human. He woke up from the dead and, of course, chased them out to the parking lot. So we probably can see that this feud between PCO and Eddie Edwards is not going to end anytime soon. Now, before the end of the show ended, we saw Josh Alexander relinquish the Impact World title due to a torn bicep. However, there's some exchanges that have been going on. I have to say, I like how Stephen Macklin is playing the hypocrite, saying that, oh, Josh Alexander, you're too much of a coward to face me because you got injured. But what I did like is a few things. Josh did tell Kushida that he has that he hopes that he makes Macklin tap out, because many people are saying that the source that it was possibly Kushida who might have torn the bicep of Josh Alexander since Battle in the Valley back in February. So basically, he wants the same thing. But what I did like is how Scott D'Amore defended Josh, saying, "Hey, Macklin, you're saying that he's a coward to face you. No, 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 no. You had many chances to step up the plate. One was with, of course, Bobby Fish. If you guys remember, Bobby Fish put himself out there to challenge for the belt. So basically, it was like you didn't do your part, and then you allowed Mike Bailey, do the same thing. So he's telling him that he is nothing but a coward. But of course, Macklin was trying to leave the building with the belt, but luckily Kushida took care of business. So, as you know, after 1 year for Macklin studying Josh Alexander, he's stepping into the uncharted waters against Kushida, because he doesn't know what Kushida is about. Can he pull it off in a couple of weeks? Well, we don't know. But we'll see what takes place at Rebellion. So right now, let's just end it right here with this review and move on with our final, which is Ring of Honor. Okay, so let's start with Ring of Honor. As you know, we opened up with Christopher Daniels sending a direct message to our brand new Pure Wrestling champion, Kazuchika Shibata. Now, he's issuing the challenge for the Pure title. I'm sure Shibata wouldn't mind, and I think he's probably up for the challenge. So let's see what happens there. Now, our opening match, we have Shane Taylor teaming up with the Workhorsemen, taking on Mark Briscoe and, of course, the Lucha Brothers. Now, it was later told that the Lucha Brothers, as you know, is the brand new ROH Tag Team Champions. They will defend those tag team titles against QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs. Well, we'll see how that turns out, because as you know, Hobbs defeated both. So he thinks that, oh, I beat them both, automatically we get those titles. But you know perfectly well that QT is up to his old tricks. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Briscoe has their back, because that's the last thing I think QT probably would want to have. But the match between Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers versus the Workhorsemen and Shane Taylor was amazing. I thought it was a pretty good match, but in this case, it was, of course, the Dre Jiller onto Anthony Henry by Mark Briscoe that put away Anthony Henry and win the match. However, this does have implications for the ROH six-man world tag team title. So this is going to be interesting. I do know that Mark Briscoe does have experience in this type of field. If you guys remember, Mark and Jay did won the Never Openweight six-man tag team titles with Toru Yano. Forgot who their opponents were, but I have to say, Mark, with the Lucha Brothers, that's going to be a different thing to watch. Now we move on with the ROH Pure Wrestling Championship. Kazuchika Shibata defends it against Christopher Daniels. Now, at certain in this type of match, what I didn't realize, you have to use tactics and brain to win the match. One of the most interesting thing is you have to make sure that your opponent is worn out to how do I say, use the rope breaks. That's exactly what Wheeler tried, but he couldn't do that on Shibata. So Shibata did that until Shibata applied the PK onto Christopher Daniels and retained the title. So we're just gonna wait and see who will be the next opponent to challenge him. Next up, we do have an interview with Dasha talking about Claudio Castagnoli. So Claudio is not amused about what happened at the end of Supercard of Honor. Now, he is happy he retained the title, but he's not happy with the attitude of Eddie Kingston. So That's going to be interesting to hear. But do we think that this thing with Eddie Kingston and Claudio is over? I don't know. But we'll move on from that. Excuse me. Now, our next match, we have Brian Cage versus Ortiz. I have to say this match was very interesting. Ortiz, who's been in the game for a lot longer than anybody. I have to say it was a pretty interesting matchup. We probably think that Ortiz would do whatever it takes not to get crossed by the power of Brian Cage, but apparently it wasn't enough. It did put him in the drill claw, and 1, 2, 3, it was over. Brian Cage wins the match. Next up, we have Darius Martin versus Giolito. Dante, as you know, was injured at Ring of Honor Supercard, so he had it alone. However, the Kingdom were at the commentary watching this, but the match was pretty fun. But you know that this match ended because the Kingdom and Top Flight are not amused by these brand new tag team wrestlers who are making a name for themselves. So once again, Taven cost the match, sending a direct message. But you know when Dante Martin returns, there's going to be hell to pay. So we'll see that happen. Next match, we got the Infantry, Carly Bravo, and of course, the Captain Sean Dean taking on the LFI's Rush and Derlisico. This was a very interesting match. You probably figured that this match would fall into favor of the LFI, who are trying to make a statement, which they did until a knee strike by Derlisico onto Sean Dean allowed him to win the match. Next up, we got Hot Sauce Tracy Williams versus Daniel Garcia. A lot of technical aspect on this match was pretty good. I like how it was being utilized, but in the end, it was, of course, Daniel Garcia with an underhook knee drop that allowed him to pick up the win, and it was over in his favor. Next up, we got Will Nangil taking on Notorious Mimi. Interesting matchup. As you know, we know Will Nangil is one of those wrestlers that everybody can get behind, but it was the Dr. Bomb that allowed her to pick up the win. Next up, we got the Righteous Vincent and Dutch taking on the Even Stevens, Steven Somerset and Steven Azuri. Haven't seen these guys for quite some time, but we know that the Righteous made their recent appearance at Supercard of Honor right in front of the Dark Order. We don't know what's the purpose, but we'll find out. But in this case, it was the Autumn Sunshine by Vincent onto Steven Azur that allowed the win. Next match, we have Tony Nese taking on Konosuke Takeshita. This one had a lot of the number games for Takeshita. As you know, he is the rising star coming from Japan. Woods was getting away, so did, of course, what's his name, Ari Daivari. But none of that stopped Takeshita no matter what, until he applied a German suplex onto Tony Nese. Really great, and it was just done great. Now, our next match, we have the ROH Women's Championship between Miyu Yamashita and Athena. This match was incredible. Like, we know that Athena has been in some of the toughest matches she's been, but man, the one thing that Athena had to be more careful was the kicking techniques by Yamashita. It did try to help her out, but it did not put away Athena as much as possible until suddenly she applied a crossface and forcing her to tap out and retaining the title. So the obvious question does remain that, of course, Riccaboni and Caprice and Nigel McGuinness were saying who will be the ones to dethrone her. That's going to be a very interesting matchup to find out who can dethrone her. So we'll just see. And I think that's pretty much it right now with Ring of Honor. Let's do some news updates. so welcome to our news update. So this is what we have now. Starting with GCW, a lot of stuff has been announced. For the I Can't Feel My Face that will take place on the 15th. It's already been announced that the GCW World Title will be defended. Masha defends it against Cole Radrick. So that's going to be a much interesting match to watch. Now, Slamovich is set to appear on the upcoming event on the 11th of May for the Brooklyn show. That hasn't announced the name of the title, so that's what we do know. Now, however, once again, for the Way I Am show that takes place on the 20th of May at Detroit, the World Tag Team titles will be defended in a three-way. We have the East West Express, Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver. They face off with the Los Macizos, the previous champions, Ciclopse and Medio Extremo. They take on the champions as well, the Motor City Machine Guns, Shelly and Sabin. They even announced for people making appearances at the Las Vegas show on the 26th of May. We have Hijo de Vikingo and of course the cutest in the world, Maki Ito. Rina Yamashita has announced that she'll be participating in many of the events. This is what I do note. They did announce. This is her schedule. She will appear on May the 26th in Las Vegas, June 3rd and 4th for the Atlantic, June 17th in LA, June 23rd in Chicago, the 24th of June at Huntsville, and finally June 25th in Florence. So she'll be available for that, and she will be I think she'll be defending the GCW Ultraviolent Championship in all shows. Now, however, another interesting development come in. Matt Cardona, along with his new friend Steph Detlanders, has issued a challenge against Maki Death Kill. Apparently, Cardona says that the GCW must be saved from these deathmatch wannabes. So they're out saying they're trying to save GCW from them. We'll see what happens because as you know, Matt Cardona considers himself the Deathmatch King because he defeated the King himself, Nick Gage. Well, we'll see what happens for that. But Makito is not going to take this kindly. Now, Kota Ibushi, as you know, he's recently been talking with a group known as the Dark Puroresu Flowsion. We know we just recently saw him at the GCW collective shows like Bloodsport 9. I haven't seen him the one he did with Joey Janela, but I will get to that soon enough. But he did said this to the guys at Dark Puroresu Flowsion. Let me pull it up. He did say this. That he told them that AEW is his number one choice. So this is what he had to say about that. I don't want to go out normally. I want to go out seriously. I think I'm more suited to AEW than Japan. I already thought so during All In. I have many friends, and there are even best tag partners. I have to say that he seems like he's now interested in competing in tag team because we do know his tag team partner, if you guys know this or not. Back in Japan, one of his tag partners, and you guys know him too, is Kenny Omega. Together, they're known as the Golden Lovers. They did have their little reunion back in 2018, I believe. This is when, of course, they had like that somewhat of a feud between him and Cody over the leadership of Bullet Club. So there was that. Now, speaking of Kenny Omega, he was talking to Muttley Pure Russo about something you guys should be interesting. Now, those who know Kenny Omega's career in Japan, before going to New Japan Pro Wrestling, he has competed in DDT Pro Wrestling and All Japan. However, he is interested in wrestling in Pro Wrestling Noah. You probably ask yourselves, how would he get involved in that? Simple. He does have a connection with Shinjiro Tagaki. Now, Tagaki is the president of Cyberfight, so he doesn't make the decisions, but I know for a fact he'll bring this idea to the guys into Pro Wrestling Noah. So he said probably the best time for him to get involved with Pro Wrestling Noah could be in their annual Cyber Fight festival or so. I'm kind of interesting. It would be a good thing to hear. Now, some of you say, what about New Japan? Well, they may have a working with, but I know that AEW are willing to work with anybody. Doesn't matter which promotion, as long as you have a working agreement. So that I could see that happening down the line. Now, DDP for their live show taking place later on this month. They announced there's going to be a Golden Opportunity qualifier match. It will feature Jay Malachi versus Alec Price versus Jackson Drake. So that's going to be a lot of fun to enjoy. Um, as you know, we did witness, of course, what's his name, Jay White making. Now, I know some of you WWE loyalists have been wondering why he didn't appear at 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 WrestleMania or at Raw. Well, here's what Fightful Select reported. Now we do know that there's been a lot of interest in Jay White since he went free agent as we speak. Um, WWE seems like they were interested. We know Triple H and William Regal have been interested in him, but the upper management felt that there has been a fail to try to acquire him as soon as possible. Now, there's those are saying the Fightful Select does report it that this idea with him, with Jay White going to AEW, has already been in motion ahead of before WrestleMania. So he signed a multi-year deal with them. So there's a lot of questions we still don't know, and this is part of the discussion I will be putting up real soon. I'm kind of interested about the Bullet Club situation, but like I said, that's under discussion. So, but there are others that have spoken that the reason he probably didn't go to WWE may because of Vince McMahon. We don't know if that was the case. I'm sure Vince would have made him a top star, but whatever the reasons are from that, only Jay White can answer. But hopefully, we will find out that. So, okay. Now, as you know, in Stardom, we saw the appearance of Saori Anou. Now, I mentioned back then last month in March that she announced that she was not taking any offers for the month of April. We do know she will be teaming up with, of course, the Pirate Princess. Um, what's her name? Kairi, and of course the Cosmic Fairy Natsupoi in a tag in a for the artist belts at Yokohama on the 23rd of April, and of course they just dubbed themselves as Restart. Saori Anou has posted out a interview with ShuPro. This is what she had to say about her coming to Stardom, and this is what she says: "I want to make myself more brilliant. That's why I came to Stardom. I'm ready to fight all the wrestlers of Stardom, each one of them. I'm looking forward to facing off against wrestlers I used to be with in At-Risk Girls." Well, that's also another interesting. Now, those who don't know, Saori Anou has been with At-Risk Girls before. Now, who do we know have been there before? Let's see. We know Tam has been there, so has Natsupoi. Let's see. We know all members of Colors were there. Waka has been there. Who else? Oh, that's right. Mai Sakurai is one of them, so she's on the list. So that's going to be interesting to hear. But it's interesting that she wants to face them, so no problem at all. Now, apparently Sendai Girls had a bit of a deja vu. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm referring to, I'll tell you. A couple of months ago, we saw Unagi Sayaka invaded the dojo of Sendai Girls because of, she wanted to have a one-on-one match against Hashimoto, which of course it did happen. And now another moment happened. Of course, the members of God's Eye, consistent with Suri, Mirai, and Ami Suri, made their way to the dojo. I will put that video on the description down below so you guys can check it out. It's kind of interesting, but I don't want to say I compare it to what Unagi did. I mean, Unagi, she's a bit obnoxious in some capacity, but uh, I don't know how you compare this one with God's Eye invading, but yeah. So like I said, I'll put that video down below. Um, oh yeah, our final thing, as you know, the thing between the Guerrero family is now becoming very interesting. As you know, those who don't know what's going on, let me recap a little bit what's going on. Eddie Guerrero's daughter, with Vicky, Charlene Guerrero, revealed that she was sexually assaulted by her stepfather during a cruise ship in 2020. However, Vicky Guerrero is kind of saying, that this whole thing is not a lie, that she's only seeking attention and all this, that she cut all ties with her for being narcissistic and all this other stuff. Uh, Chavo even said that he supports Sherlyn for what she's going through and all this. Now it appears another member of the Guerrero family has stepped up and is defending and standing by her sister, and we're talking about Eddie's youngest daughter, with who is not with Vicky Guerrero. This is Kaylee Guerrero. Now, those who don't know who she is, Kaylee is from another mother. Um, as you guys may remember history, there was a 2-year separation between Eddie and Vicky. In between that separation, Eddie was dating a woman named Tara Maloney. In that process, they had a daughter together named Kaylee. Now, Kaylee put out a statement towards what transpired to Sherilyn. I think I might have that. Let me pull it up for everybody. That way, you can read it. Here's what Kaylee had to say. This will be my only time addressing this subject. Due to the amount of comments and messages I've gotten, it's not my place to speak on the matter. I 100% stand with Sherilyn. I hope that all you can respect her healing journey and giving her time to space that she needs to do so. I will not stand by anyone who makes excuses for not being there on their own flesh and blood as they are dealing with something that is not only traumatizing but a crime against her. Uh, it's not the time for others to start victimizing themselves out of trauma. Sherlyn has a beautiful soul that she has a woman hold herself to poise in class. She deserves much better than how she's being treated. After coming forth with something that is already not so difficult to speak about, she may not speak at all the time. We may not speak all the time, but I will never let anyone think for a moment that the things being said about her are okay. I will not let her name be tarnished by people who could be bothered even if it mattered. So it's obvious to me that Sherlyn embodies all of our dad's soul. Dad was, and it's very obvious to me, those who don't. So Kaylee is standing by her own sister. She will not allow Vicky Girl try to tarnish her, saying that, oh, she's lying, that she's a narcissist. So, but however, we do know that Vicky Girl has deactivated her social media because of this. Because, as you know, Sherilyn, when she made this announcement, Vicky tried to save face, but looks like people are siding with Sherilyn. Now, probably some of you may ask me, where do I stand? Normally, I would stand with Sherilyn, but the way I see it now, if Vicky Girl turns off her social media, it means that maybe there's more to what we don't know. So we'll see what happens. Hope everybody um, prays for the Guerrero family. I know some of you are questioning, what about Eddie Guerrero's family? What do they all think about this? Well, we don't know yet if they will side with Sherilyn for this. I know in the past there have been talks that Vicky has distanced herself from Eddie's family, but we'll just wait and see what happens then. I think that's pretty much it what we have. So we'll just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody is enjoying this episode. Coming up, Choco Pro has their latest show that they put out. I think this is 304. I'm excited to review that. I haven't decided if there's anything else I want to review. I know I'm missing out on the GCW collective stuff and various other shows. But we will have AEW Rampage and of course Level Up. And I just recently found out the Battle of the Belts, so that's something I'm looking forward to watch. If there's anything else, I'll let you guys know. Right now, I'm in a very difficult timing due to the fact that I'm going back to my normal day job, but we'll see how that goes. So please be patient with me, and we'll just go from there. So I'll see you guys on the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang!